What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Agent Authority podcast. I'm here with my co-host Ryan Juarez, and
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. And today we are thrilled to have a guest on. His name is Elisha Israel. He is the co-founder of Escrow Leads. They are a full-service marketing agency for realtors. They do everything from run the ads, generate the leads, follow up with them, book the calls, and they even call the leads for you and will transfer them live. So welcome, Elisha.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you. So right off the bat, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the industry, and where you're from?
Sure. So I grew up in the Midwest, and I bounced around a little bit, and I was in the music world in my early 20s. And so I had done a lot of like word of mouth and peer-to-peer marketing, invite trades on social media kind of thing. And I had built up a couple different brands. I had booked some local events, regional events, and national tour. And I kind of got a little bit burned out in the music world. And so I had a friend who I was talking with, somewhat of a mentor at the time. And she recommended, like, hey, you've done all this stuff for yourself. Why not offer it to businesses? And that's when I started to get into the marketing space. And so with that, in the marketing space, started to really focus on, I at first had a client where I was pretty much a glorified VA. They were like, go do things. And I was like, okay. But I wasn't strategic at all about it. I didn't know, like, why are we doing things? And eventually I started to be like, I'm curious about advertising. I know these tools are powerful. I'm seeing some of the results that people are posting. And I started to get into the advertising space a little bit, doing very small control tests with my clients. And then I did a little bit of an exercise, and I wrote down everything that I was doing for my clients, and then, crossed out everything I didn't like, circled everything I liked and was high value. And what I was left with was copywriting and advertising and digital advertising. And so from there, I really basically immediately eliminated everything else out of my business, focused in on those. I've worked in a bunch of different niches. I've worked in solar. I've worked in obviously real estate, which we're going to talk a lot about today. And that's where our agency model is focused on. I've also worked with a lot of business consultants, wellness professionals, et cetera, coach consultant types. And so really, I absolutely love the work. I love being able to talk to people. I love being able to gain a better understanding of how they are helping people, and then being able to help the helpers, which is really a big motivator for me.
That's amazing.
Let me ask you, what other skills did you explore prior to, narrowing down on advertising and copywriting?
Yeah. So I think at the beginning, it was mainly, I was brought in as the do all the online things that we don't want to do kind of person. So it was, some website design, some web updates, a little bit of SEO, a little bit of social media management, content creation, some event management. In the music world, I had also done a lot of on-site management and on-site logistics as well. So one of my clients had been doing some events, so I was helping out with that a little bit as well. But as I got more focused, and I knew that remote work was a priority for me. Just going back a few years, which looking at the past couple of years, it's definitely a blessing to have seen that. Yeah, but I knew remote work was a priority, and I thought that I could have the most leverage in the least amount of time when I was looking at copywriting and advertising.
I feel the same exact way. It is just when you look at all the digital skills out there that you can acquire and get good at, and then look at the return on all those, it's like, know how to run ads profitably and know how to be really good at communicating to other people's audiences, and you are basically top tier, God level marketer. Everything else,
I truly think it's pretty simple. Like the main steps, I feel like, is have good copy, have a good ad, and offer something that people want. Right. So it's like,
I would actually come in there and say, first, be a really good offer creator. Cause the offer's the most important part, but then having the copy and the image to make it catchy and worthwhile for the client. That's where you really stand out. But yeah, I actually think that copy is currently one of the best forms, because you have a lot of people going on Facebook and they're scrolling. They're either watching videos, scanning at an image, or they know someone post a really long post and they're going to spend the time to read it. So if that copy's really catching, like you're acquiring that person to look
and read for 40 seconds to a minute, however long you type. So copy's super important. But I really wanted to touch on one thing, which was how did you get into working specifically with realtors? And then how did you come up with figuring out that you wanted to go the agency route versus maybe just stay and do web design or social media management?
Sure. So I think I'm going to answer the second part first. I was going towards the agency model pretty much when I moved away from all of those other services. So we're looking back about 4.5 years by now. So at that point, I was just like, I don't want to do any of these other things. And so I wanted to look at how can I have a process where I can train people, where I can make sure that it's something that we're in a position where we can have that model that actually can grow, rather than, oh, like we're the one-stop shop that does everything, but actually does not much of anything, which a lot of people end up being stuck in, where they're constantly doing something different with every project. In terms of the real estate space, it was really a matter of curiosity. So I think a lot of people, when they get into a new industry or they get into a new skill set, they dabble a lot. They do campaigns. Like, for example, in my context, it was like, you do a campaign here, you do a campaign there. And the reason why I wanted to focus on the agency model for real estate was just because of the stability. It's a broad market offer, which means people are always going to buy and sell real estate. It's something that people already want. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to write crazy copy. You don't have to think about, oh, like what's the, the unique mechanism, et cetera, the way that, you're working with a business consultant or a wellness professional, and one of them is a process optimizer, and one of them is growth, and one of them is sales, and every single one of them has their own unique message. Whereas in the real estate space, it's a broad market offer that everybody wants. And so the cost per lead is lower, the campaigns run steady. And when you're looking at a stable offer, those are really the key metrics for something that you want to really build on. So have ran a bunch of other campaigns that still do run a bunch of other industries. But at the same time, when we're looking at the kind of thing that we wanted to put a lot of growth into, real estate was the one that made sense. And it was when we started to get into real estate where we started to realize what some of the problems in the space were.
Got it. So real quick, can you touch on some of those? So I totally agree with you. I think it's crazy that people don't realize how simple it is to generate leads for real estate. I think the harder part is converting the lead, because most real estate clients, when they're clicking on a Facebook ad, they're usually, I would say, anywhere from 6 to 9 months out from actually doing a deal. And you'll get the occasional person looking to do something right away, but the majority of them take time to follow up with. So I totally agree with you on that point. But I wanted to ask real quick is how you've figured out, because you obviously have a successful agency, right? So my question is, how did you figure out within your agency to be able to qualify the leads to get higher quality leads for your clients? Because I've ran into a bunch of agents in just from around town who run Facebook ads and they just can't convert them. So maybe you could touch on that for a little bit.
Sure. And I think that you made a really great point, which is that it's really not crazy difficult to generate leads for real estate. There's lots of people who have trainings on it. If somebody wants to generate leads for themselves, they're more than capable of it. And that's one of the problems in the space. There are a lot of agencies who come in, they dump 100 leads onto their client's lap, they put their feet up and expect the invoice to clear every month. And the thing is, the market's just moved on from that. Most people know, like, generating the leads is not necessarily the most difficult thing in the real estate space. As you said, actually getting them to convert, actually getting them to progress along. Now, there are two sides to that. One is just the nature of the percentages. I'll talk about that in a little bit more. And the second is the reality of what the actual task is. And I'm going to start there. So if I put 100 leads onto somebody's plate and I say, hey, I want you to call every lead 5 times and text them a few times, make sure you have a total of 10 follow-ups. We'll give you some email and SMS follow-ups, but you really got to make the calls. 5 calls per lead, 100 leads per month is 500 calls per month. Any busy professional does not have the time to make 500 calls per month. They will be very nice and they'll be kind and they'll tell you that they can, because they believe in you. They want to buy into your program, whatever it is. They will tell you that they can. But the functional reality is that once you get into a campaign, they will not be making the phone calls. And what happens then is communication breaks down because they feel bad because they know they're not doing what they're supposed to do. But if they have a bunch of different revenue streams coming in, if they have deals coming off of referrals, they have deals coming from their mom's uncle's second cousin, and then on top of that, they have to wake up in the morning and actually call, 30, 50, 100, 200 people. That just gets deprioritized if they're actually a top producer who's already producing elsewhere. Somebody who's brand new and has all the time in the world probably can do it. But the reality is that when somebody is actually in flow, they've got deal flow, they've got a lot of things moving, they're going to consistently deprioritize the calls. And that gets into the second part, which is, what is a good lead in real estate? Well, the thing is, most people, when they say, oh yeah, I want good leads, and so they think they're going to get all the information and it's going to be the perfect lead and everything is going to be perfect right away and the person's going to be ready to move forward right away. That's not the way that it works. I mean, occasionally, if you're lucky, you'll have that. But the reality is that in the real estate space, you can nurture people up front and warm them up. But most of it is going to be a matter of having an actual database in place so that your follow-up, so that you can send SMS messages. So every Monday morning, you can send out a message saying, hey, are you still interested in buying or selling in the area? So that's where the actual leverage and where the power comes from, not from getting the lead that comes in first day, but from having the actual campaign that is consistently growing your database every day without you spending time on it. So when you have automations, when you have the follow-up, when you have the call team, you actually have people to reach. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people make the mistakes of, because they're like, oh, I want the perfect lead. But the reality is with internet leads, 30 to 40% of them are going to be bunk every single campaign. That's just the facts. And so it's not about the perfect lead. It's about the perfect database. And the only way you have a perfect database is if it's growing every day and you're consistently following up with them through multiple channels.
I couldn't agree with you more. As someone who generates leads on a regular basis, I would say out of 100 leads, every 20 leads, like I would say out of 100, around 20 to 40 of them either have bad phone numbers, wrong person, or not interested, or the email's bad, like the phone number doesn't even ring. So it's like you do realize that you could generate tons of leads in real estate, but I would say on average, like you probably have like a 40% accuracy on either getting a legitimate phone number or a legitimate email, one or the other. That's kind of what I've seen. But just building the database, to your point, totally true. But yeah, I'll let Ryan take this one because he seems like he's got something to say.
It's like, to not get super gruesome, but the thing that comes to my mind is like food production almost. It's like, yeah, you can obviously go and get the cow and bring it to the person, but there's still the processing it before it becomes something that you eat on your plate. And the processing part is either going to be in your hands or it's going to be on the realtor's hands. And they don't want to do all that. That's the whole point of them paying you.
Exactly. And even if they say that they want to, the reality is that when they get busy, they're going to deprioritize something like a lead list and making those phone calls. And so the value for the agency space in real estate now is not necessarily in just generating the leads. It's actually about managing a lot of those next steps. It's about having the call team in place. Ideally, we're all from the US here, so like to invest into US businesses and to people in the US. So, for us, it's really important to have a US based call team. There's also some communication benefits to having a US based call team. And then also making sure that you have consistent email and SMS follow-up. You have teams in place to monitor those. You're consistently doing outreach to the database through those channels so that when you're actually, that over time, it becomes something that really feeds into itself. And so you can, you sit to yourself and you think, oh, you're running a campaign steady. Maybe you're spending 10, 15 bucks a day. Doesn't sound like anything crazy, but 3-4 months in, you have automations going out. You send out a Monday morning text message. You have 2 to 3 replies coming in every day. And then from there, and obviously it could be significantly higher than that for people who are able to spend more. But the reality is that when you're having that happen every single day, you're able to, have the call team actually connect, send those live transfers. You're able to have that the team that's monitoring the messages in place to actually set those appointments. And that's where you get that really steady flow of, one day you get a couple live transfers, one day you get a scheduled call back. And that really is how it happens, because at that point, they've already talked to somebody. They want a live transfer. They've replied to a couple text messages and shared a little bit about what they want, and we're willing to talk to somebody. It's not just, like I clicked a button with an auto-inputted form online, it's the best lead ever. Like, no, that's not how it works.
That's something that I actually tell a lot of people is when you're generating leads for any business, but specifically real estate, no lead you get is hot. Every lead you get has to get warmed up to speaking to you, texting with you, emailing with you, even if they've seen videos of you. Like when you get their information, they're basically saying, hey, I'm willing to interact with you on a more personal level. So that lead, in a sense, is like, well, I'm willing to give my name, email, and phone number to this person. I may not answer, but let's see what they're like, right? So I always tell newer agents, right? The newer agents, I even think to what you said is newer agents who hire an agency, they have no clue what they're doing when they're first getting into the business. And everyone's telling them cold call, send mailers, door knock, all this stuff, post on social media. But when it comes to it, they're just like everyone else. Like it's just a trial, right? Everyone's just testing things out. And I always say that a newer agent, even though they have more time to make the calls, those calls aren't going to be as good because they're brand new and they still have to learn those skills. Right. So I actually think you incorporating every one of those aspects into your agency kind of saves the agent from being like, well, why am I spending all this money if this guy's giving me 20 booked calls, right? So it's like if you're giving them, let's just say 20 to 50 calls a month, depending on their ad budget and the time of the market, like you're looking at if they have let's just say they generate 20 leads, if they're able to convert 2 or 1 of them, that pays for 3-4 months of ads just for your agency side. We obviously don't know what you charge. But I assume each person's different if you work with agents, teams, brokerages, those types of things. But I would even say that, yeah, the newer agents, they're going to struggle at first making those calls. So having someone being able to take that on seems like a huge benefit for an agent to actually think about doing. But on the flip side, it really comes down to, can they afford to work with an agency? So maybe you could touch on that for a little bit and maybe discuss what a newer agent would do if they're thinking about going into real estate and they're planning on going in and hiring an agency. Like, how much money should they budget and those types of things?
I mean, I think it really depends. It depends on what the agency is delivering. So I think the first thing to be really clear on is, making sure that you understand the deliverables of the agency. There's lots of different ways to generate leads nowadays. So how are they generating leads? Is it through SEO? Is it through ads? Is it Google ads or Facebook ads? Making sure that you understand exactly where it's coming from. Each of those are going to have different cost factors associated with them, just in terms of the true cost. And also, like, SEO is going to generate a lot less leads. They're going to be higher quality generally, but it's going to generate a lot less leads overall than something like Facebook ads. So that's something to be mindful of. The next thing to think about is, okay, well, what kind of commitments are they making to me? If I'm a new agent, or if I'm an agent period and I'm working with the marketing agency, are they willing to put their money where their mouth is? Are they going to make some kind of guarantee where they're delivering, hey, like, we're going to deliver you 50 leads every month, no matter what, or 70 leads every month, no matter what? That's the kind of thing that you should look for. That should be in their contract. And there should be, some kind of guarantee and, a refund policy or something like that if that's not met. The next thing to keep an eye out for is, okay, well, are they just dumping the leads on my plate? Am I just getting, I'm getting 70 leads a month, and they're just going to send me name, number, email, maybe a couple questions and forget about it? That's what they're doing. Okay, well, then what does that mean that I actually have to do as an agent? If I'm the agent and I get 70 contacts every month, well, my responsibility is to contact them. Or is the agency actually setting it up where that some of that is managed? At minimum, there should be some like email and SMS type automations set up so that there's a little bit of follow-up there. But the most ideal structure is a situation where they have that call team in place. They're calling out to the leads. They're doing those live transfers. They're setting those appointments. They're monitoring the replies. Because again, going back to it, even for a new agent, most busy professionals just don't have time to spend all of their time on follow-up. And, at the end of the day, this is how people make money, but it's something that is something to be mindful of. So in terms of costs, I would say that it really depends on what exactly is being delivered. I mean, I think we generally for a solo agent, somebody who is just starting out, I mean, really, we don't differentiate between somebody who's starting out and somebody who's been in it for a while. If they're solo, they're solo. We generally aim to sit around 1,700 a month all in. And we know that's towards the upper end of the market, but that's all in. That's call team, that's advertising costs, etc.
Do you guys ask for them to give you the ad budget, or do they do the ad budget
so they
themselves?
pay the ads and the call team directly. So those are like partner vendors. So our service fee is about half of that.
So they're just allocating 1,700 a month.
Yeah.
So it's half to you, a portion to the call team, and a portion to the ads.
Yeah, and I mean, depending on if they want to be a little bit aggressive in terms of spend, that can go up towards 2,000. But that's the range that we're really comfortable at, and below that, we know that like we're making sacrifices in service quality in terms of like the ad spend or the call team costs will go too low, and that's not something we're really comfortable with. Like, I don't want to run a campaign where they get too few leads, because then they're going to be like, this thing doesn't work. I didn't get any live transfers. I didn't get any appointments. I have a friend who has a business. They start at like 400 a month, but they don't do any of this other stuff. They'll give you, they might give you an email and an SMS automation, but there's no call team. There's no management. At the end of the day, the client has to spend all of their time on the phone chasing people down. So it really just depends on what it is that you're looking for. We don't really do much on the SEO side, but generally most SEO agencies sit somewhere between 800 to 1,200 a month, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. And again, you just want to make sure that with those kinds of companies that you're looking at, are they actually getting me traffic? Are they ranking my website? Is this something where we're actually seeing that when we're getting traffic, it's the right people coming through on the other end? So these are the kinds of things that are important to monitor. But I think somewhere in that range of between roughly 500 to 1,500 with a little bit of wiggle room on the other end is about what to expect for the market. And that would be per month.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was actually going to touch on the SEO bit a little bit because this is something that I've just been thinking about just in general. Like, I've actually really thought about it for real estate. And I feel like if you're doing SEO and you're doing the organic version of SEO, right? Because when I think of SEO, I'm not thinking of paid, because paid ads is just cost per click, and you're searching keyword terms. You're not necessarily just trying to rank your website, right? So when you're trying to, go ahead.
Can I just clarify one thing real quick? What I was just saying would be purely for a solo agent.
When you're
talking about
no,
teams and brokerages, that's a different conversation.
I'm fully aware. Yeah, so it's like a solo agent who's thinking about doing SEO and just trying to go the organic route. I always say the only way that that's going to be successful is if you are posting content daily, blogs, written word, videos, images, everything on your site. So it's like, if you're not constantly doing that, SEO is not going to really do much. So I would even say, don't waste your time at first doing that. I would sooner go do like a Google My Business page, right? Like that's so much simpler. And then the other thing I would say is focus on just posting organically on social media. You have a better chance of getting seen there than on your website. And when you start out in real estate, you don't even really need a website. You just need access to the MLS, and you could just get a list of homes from the MLS or anything like that.
And real quick, I wanted to kind of jam on organic social, because I feel like for some of the listeners, that's going to be really helpful as well. And I actually just messaged my client the other day. You may have seen the post that I put up with the screenshot of that. But for organic social, especially on like the Facebook and Instagram environment, is it okay if I share just a couple quick tips that would be helpful for people?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead. Let's do it.
Yeah, awesome. I'm looking away. I might sound like I'm reading something because I am. Basically, one thing I learned this from a friend who's super smart with specifically with Instagram, but it works really well with both social media platforms. One of the big engagement indicators is time spent. So when, for example, somebody's on your Instagram profile or your Facebook profile or something like that, if they're spending a lot of time on your profile, that's a really strong engagement indicator, and you're going to see a lot more of their content going forward. So you want to be using stuff like stories, you want to be using stuff like reels, you want to consistently be publishing content with that. Now, what kind of content? You want to make sure that it's a mix between like educational and lifestyle content. So like a lifestyle content would be, oh, I'm out at a showing. Now, my personal recommendation, especially for female realtors and female real estate professionals, would be to always post once you leave where you are. So, don't post just because you think, oh, I should post it. You can record the video and you can post it when you're in the car on the way home.
Yeah, safety
that's
reasons.
something that is important to think about. The other thing that I would say is so that's kind of the lifestyle content. And you can also, just do stuff like your dinner and everything like that, the way a lot of people do. The other side is educational content. So this could be, funny TikTok style reels, or it can be, that share something about, funny or educational, share something about real estate. This can be stuff like those slideshows that, what you need to know to qualify for your mortgage. Again, the real thing that you're looking to make sure that you're doing is boosting your time on profile. So if they're watching all your stories, if they're watching your reels, if you do a live stream about something, if you're putting up a bunch of slideshows, all of that boosts your time on profile, which means if they follow you, if they engage with you, if they friend request you, etc., they're going to continue to see more and more of your content because your time on profile keeps going up. So that's something that's really important. The next thing that I would say is that I see a lot of people doing, and it's a pretty simple fix, but a big mistake. People, especially local realtors, do this all the time. They post hashtag real estate, hashtag investing, hashtag etc. The thing is, the only people that see hashtag real estate are people like me, marketers who are trying to find realtors.
Marketers and agents, exactly.
Right. So what you want to do is you want to find local trending hashtags. I grew up in Michigan. I'm not much of a sports fan as much as I was, but I'm a University of Michigan sports fan. So I don't know if you know about the Big House in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's the biggest stadium in the country. So if I wanted to target an Ann Arbor audience, I would use a hashtag like the Big House on game day or something like that. So you want to find what those local trending hashtags, if you're in Los Angeles, you might want to do something like hashtag Hollywood Boulevard or whatever it is. Maybe that's actually a little bit too much for tourists.
Hashtag the Valley.
Yeah, exactly. You want to find what the locals are actually using. And then
your city, restaurant, streets, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Combining that with geotagging, actually tagging your posts with the location or the neighborhood, will allow you to get that super targeted, organic, focused reach on the platform. Because at the end of the day, like the way a lot of these platforms work is they'll kind of show your post to maybe 10, 20, 50, 100 people. And if it gets engagement, it'll keep disseminating. But if it doesn't get that first engagement, it'll die. So if you're using something like hashtag real estate, well, if it doesn't, like if you're not showing it to an interested audience, then your post is going to drop dead. Yeah. Whereas if you're doing something like, okay, I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm doing the Big House, and I have a beautiful property, and I have the post very clearly showing that it's an Ann Arbor property, it's pretty likely you're going to get some engagement on that, and you're going to get kind of that engagement train rolling. So those are all things that can be really, really helpful.
Real quick. I was even going to say one thing that I've seen to really boost engagement when I do the local SEO, like what you're talking about, right? Which is every time you add a hashtag to your post, before you post, go into those hashtags, like 5, comment, give your 2 cents, then go to do the viral ones and do the most recent posts, and go into the comments and see who commented something, and if they asked a question or anything like that, and comment back, and then do that in every single one of those hashtags. Then
is that the 2 cent method?
It's a Gary V 2 cent method.
I never that one.
But no joke, it really works, because you start to see that your post gets more reach. It may not get more likes and comments and shares, but what I've seen is if you post something on a brand new account, you'll maybe get 20 people to see it, right? If you just post with hashtags. But then, and that's if 1 or 2 people engage, right? Like you need multiple engagements pretty pretty quickly for it to go viral in a sense, which is very difficult these days on Instagram. But
well, I mean, you could always do the engagement groups, but that's sort of a gray hat.
Yeah, but they've started realizing that those are engagement groups because it's the same people every time. That's so they start realizing. But when you start engaging with other profiles, you're basically telling Instagram, hey, I liked this content, I left a comment, and then if that person likes your comment and then you post something, Instagram's more likely to show them your post because they engaged back with you.
Go figure. Social media requires you to be social.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
Yeah. Another thing that I think, if we're jamming on the organic thing, I think something that I think a lot of realtors can do that I think some do, some don't, is leveraging LinkedIn actually. And so LinkedIn has a lot of great tools where you can search locally. And so if you know that, let's say you want to target individuals who are of a certain net worth or profile, et cetera, then ask yourself, what kind of jobs do these people have? And then just go to LinkedIn, type in your city, type in those industries, and go and send out some requests. Hey, I'm a realtor in the area. Just wanted to connect, building up my network. Hope all is well by you. And then that your content works, same as you would have anywhere else. Make sure you're consistently posting content. Make sure that you're consistently engaging. Worst case scenario, they know that you exist. It takes you a couple minutes every day. Best case scenario, you get a high net worth client out of that. So that's something that I think a lot of realtors aren't necessarily doing, that I think there is a lot of opportunity for them to potentially get some really valuable clients out of as well.
You just made me think about that too. I need to go post a lot on LinkedIn because I completely neglected that platform.
No joke. I was good on it for about like 9 months, like 2 years ago, and then I just gave up because I was doing so many different things. But yeah, I plan on me and Ryan plan on doing a podcast fully on each specific platform. Like we're gonna do one on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I actually think LinkedIn is the most underrated of all the platforms just because their organic reach is still tremendous. If someone likes your post, it shows it to their entire followers. Like that's how that platform works. So it's crazy. But I wanted to thank you for coming on. That's it for this podcast, guys. Why don't you just let everyone know where they could reach you?
Sure. And I just want to say thank you to both of you for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure. Hopefully if somebody's listening, they can get some helpful tips from this and know what to look out for as well. In terms of reaching us, if anybody's interested, they can go to www.escrowleads.io. That's ESCROWLEADS.
We're gonna have everything linked in the description below.
Perfect. Yeah.
Check the description, folks.
Thank you for hosting me.
No problem, man. Well, thank you so much again, and we'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.
Peace out.